What a crazy week. The markets finally take a breather, but at the same time, the day traders get a little creative, take down some hedge funds, and move the markets. We got a lot to talk about. Most importantly, have we seen a trend change? Let's go. Hello, there's Michael Loftus with Wealth and Wisdom TV, where education is the key to a successful financial future. First time here, I am a practicing financial advisor. What that means, what you see here today, I do implement into our models within our practice. So lots of actionable ideas. So please do consider subscribing and hitting that like button. So, crazy week this week, to say the least. It's Friday. We see the futures, what's going on. Obviously, we've had some moves, short-term trend changes, and of course, what's going on with these day traders. So as always, we're going to go to the charts, look at the facts, okay? We're going to do that first. We're going to look at sector spotlight. What do we see? What have we added this week? What keeps me up at night? And then game plan going forward, where I will discuss what's going on with these day traders and the impact on the markets. Let's go to the big charts. All right, first up, new here. We have a process, been working on this for 6 years, several different pieces, but the last is the charts. We utilize the charts, technical analysis, to make our final decision. So the first thing we see here is the long-term chart monthly view. And as you can tell, it's still very much in a bullish trend. In fact, we broke above that trend line. So right now, long-term view is definitively positive. How do we know? Let's take a look at the truly long-term, going back to 1925. This is showing you secular bear markets, secular bull markets, etc. And we are clearly, as you can tell, still in a secular bull market. So no question about that. Let's go to the midterm view on the weekly chart. What do we see here, if anything? Well, clearly there's your trend line, which not only did we break, we broke above it in a big way. Even today, I'm recording this around 9 o'clock and change. We're still high. Yes, we're seeing RSI go down a little bit, possible momentum, but it has not happened yet. Therefore, the midterm view is definitely positive. So, short term, yes, we have had some issues. We talked about this in our last video. At that time, I'd taken some profits, taken some equities off the table. So there's a couple things that we see here in the chart that stands out in the short term. So, this line here is what's called a rising wedge. Definitively bullish, okay? Now, this week, we broke it, okay? So, the question is it long-term, short-term? Based on the last two charts, I think it's just a temporary pullback. We were overdue for that. So, to me, that created some opportunities this week. But when I look at this chart right now, it is not positive on the short term. The other big thing, again, if you're new here, we really follow the VIX, okay? 20 to 25 is choppy. We're able to trade within there, okay? That's a good place. But when you're above 25, you gotta be careful when you're doing those purchases. So again, overall, I'm gonna call this neutral with a bias to the downside, but more to be determined. So next up, let's go to sector spotlight. All right, so when it comes to sector spotlight, if you get the dollar right, you get a lot of other things right. So what do I see here? Obviously, we're in cycle 2. I'll talk about that in a second for new folks, but the dollar's been crashing without question. Now, you've had a little counter trend move down here, but that's all it is. So what do you look for when the dollar's down? Well, one, inflation goes up. We're going to show that in a minute. This is commodities, which is a basket, a lot of different things in there. But the number one for us is oil. And you can own oil in a lot of different ways, right? The oil companies which this is oil or master limited partnerships. Now, kind of choppy. What this shows is where we got in back in November, took some profits, okay? That's what you got to do, especially in this type of market, in that choppy 20 to 25 VIX range. And then we added again just the other day. So do feel that, we hit this trend line here, came down, not surprising. The other thing up top, whoa, hold on there. So up top, that's relative strength. When it goes above 70, it shows it's overbought. You can correlate those two, and that's when I took profits and moved on to some other items. So the other thing is emerging markets, okay? When you look at emerging markets with dollar down, you have a lot of opportunities. I'm showing the index. We show indexes here because of compliance. I can't show actual ETFs or holdings, but you can see clearly an uptrend. But what did I just say a minute ago? That's relative strength. Now you can hold above 70, but that is clearly overbought when I look at that. So you've got to be careful. All right, we took some profits. We don't necessarily own the index. We've got a lot of different countries, China, Indonesia, and added Brazil recently, but I still like emerging markets going forward. So we talked about this last time. Banks, all right? When interest rates are going up, clearly they are right now, banks are a good opportunity. As I said last time, this is what's called a golden cross. 50-day goes above the 200-day. You see where I first added, okay? Same story, folks. This is what the market does. When it gets overbought, it takes a pause and what? Gravity brings it back down. So in this particular case, we did not take profits. We felt long-term, this is a good holding. We started with a small 2.5, and then we doubled that up this week. You'll see where I bought. I do like banks going forward. Let's take a look at my next one. This is a new one, so midweek. So when you have a pause, when the market comes back, you look for opportunities. Like I said, I went from, in a 60-40 portfolio, from about 65% down to 58%, raised some cash. Oh, there it is. Overbought conditions, topping process. Okay, this is semiconductors, obviously a good sector. We really like tech right now in this cycle. So when I take a look here, you see where we bought. Today's a little choppy. That's okay. We know that based on some news this morning. But we like semiconductors. We added this week to a decent sized position. We'll see what happens from here. Next up, what keeps me up at night? All right, first up, again, looking at our process, this is what's called the OODA loop. This came from a great book, John Boyd. I'll put a link below. My favorite last year, maybe one of my favorite ever, but he created what's called the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, and act. That's exactly what we did this week. You don't make rash decisions when you see a lot of volatility. You got to observe, see what's going on, look for those opportunities, and then act. So the big question is, did we see a cycle change this week? No, we are still very much in cycle 2. Growth accelerates. We're seeing that in earnings right now. We also saw it with the fourth quarter GDP. We expect the first quarter to be one of the biggest moves year over year in 70 years. So inflation accelerates. We'll talk about that. So the cycles, the dollar, these are things that we utilize to make our investment choices. Now, all this being said, okay, I still feel that the market is grossly overbought. This shows you the S&P in black, okay, up top there, and the S&P PE, price earnings of 20, okay? If we go to 20, that would put us at 1964. We're at 38 PE. Hello, most expensive market in history. That would be a 49% correction. 15, which is the long-term averages, is like 60%. Not saying it's going to happen, but you got to be aware it's very overpriced still. So what happens this week? I don't just look at the market. You got to see what's happening underneath the market. You look at futures, shorts, longs, etc. A lot of insider selling last week. That is a telling sign. We talked about inflation, right? So here's your dollar going down. What's going up? Commodities, Lumber, hello, just built this new space. Trust me, lumber's going up. Copper, agriculture, corn. Folks, that's inflation no matter what the Fed is saying right now. Now, another thing that concerns me, here we've got the market at all-time highs. How about consumer confidence, right? Obviously, you see the peak. All right, we're in this area. This shows the 12 months. Obviously, a lot of people are unhappy. In fact, unhappy, you still have 15 million unemployed. This continues to be a concern, right? Everyone talks about this divide between Main Street and Wall Street. That shows you right there in consumer confidence. So I'm going to talk real quick about what happened this week. Full disclosure, do not own GameStop or anything like that. There is one particular company we did own, but one, we've got the definition. Sorry, it got cut off, but short selling, right? So somebody's betting that it's going to go down. So you've got these day traders that have gone out there, they come together on Reddit, and they're pushing the stock up. So what happens, if you're short, you then have to buy that stock, and it's a vicious cycle of making things go up. So, the question is it legal? Yes, on both ends, okay? Obviously, you're allowed to short. In 2008, in the financial crisis, they stopped shorting banks, and you're allowed to do what you're doing. I mean, is it ethical or not? That's to be determined by others, but you've got these Reddit day traders that are driving and moving a lot of stocks right now. So the question is, I got this week from a friend, is it affecting the overall market? Without question. Okay, why? You're seeing it with the choppiness this week because you've got two hedge funds that have gone out already, and then two, people have to raise capital. It's messing up a lot of positions for some people, so it's dangerous, but it's legal. We'll see what happens next. So we talked about this last time, our game plan, be patient, be smart, right? OODA loop. Now, I said this last time, buy the dips. It's exactly what we did this week with a couple nice opportunities that have pulled back. So look for those, okay? I think we still go further. This is our long-term view, at least until the third quarter. The VIX, right? 25 and above, you got to be careful, all right? You got to make sure you've got your research and you're buying the right things. As always, make sure you follow us for updates. Thanks for watching. Michael Loftus, Wealth and Wisdom TV.